Hi guys, it's Brian, your local redneck that just kind of hangs out and does things, usually wrong, but we still do things. Hey, before we get into the video today, please like and subscribe to the channel. It helps. We're trying to build this up so that we can help many other veterans like myself improve the mental health, get out there, get in the woods, overland, camp, off-road, whatever we choose to do to help out veterans. So like, subscribe, every little bit helps. It's free. You just hit a couple buttons, like, subscribe. All right, now let's talk about today's subject. Here we go. Hey, what's going on everybody? It's Brian. So let's talk about a dilemma that I had, and a lot of people may come up with this problem while they're thinking about overlanding or camping. So traditionally, I've always had two power sources. Well, why do you want to even have a power source? Some people like to go out and camp or overland or whatever you want to call it, and they don't really want to have any type of electronics. They don't want to have their phone. They don't want to have to worry about anything. They just want to go out, be off the grid, and live. And I think that's great. You know, it's not really me though. I like to have some stuff that's powered. I keep my cell phone charged pretty decently because as being a diabetic, I want to make sure that I can, get a hold of somebody. I have a Wii Boost in my truck, so that helps with cell. Now that I have a Starlink, which is, the Wi-Fi, I need to be able to power that. Traditionally, I've used two sources. I keep a Jackery 500 in my truck at all times that I keep my refrigerator plugged into the 12 volt, and that will last for days. It works amazing, and I can always plug in a 100-watt solar panel to the Jackery, and typically that'll charge up the Jackery while I'm still powering my refrigerator. It does a great job. I love it. I keep a smaller solar generator, which I've just upgraded, and we'll talk about that in a moment, and that stays in my tent at all times. So at night I can charge my phone, or if it's cold out, I can plug in my heated blanket, or maybe I need to recharge some lights or camping lights, or maybe to recharge my flashlight or something. So it's always good to have a secondary source just like that. Now that I have a Starlink and I've ran a couple tests, the Jackery 500 just isn't going to cut it. It's not going to last very long. So I needed a bigger power setup. What are my options? I could get a larger Jackery. Well, that can be very expensive, and I already have a medium-sized Jackery, the Jackery 500. I don't know if I really need a larger one, because then it'd kind of be overkill. Some people use a dual battery setup, and hey, that thing works great. I don't have one on my truck currently, but it's something I'm thinking about in the future. I decided to go a different route. But before we get into that, let's kind of talk about what I already use, what I have been using, and see if maybe it'll help some of you guys out. And then if you have different things that you prefer or different sources that you use that I'm not using, let me know in the comments below and we'll talk about it, and we can go from there. All right, let's check this out. So this is the Jackery 500, and they come in plenty of different sizes. I know people that carry a 1000 or 2000. This is the 500. There are even smaller ones, and it just depends on what kind of need you have and your budget, which is totally fine. There's plenty of options. You've got a 12 volt for charging, the DC to DC 12 volt. Over here you've got your AC power, your 110 or so to plug in like a household item. You've got USB, ways to charge. Up here is where you would plug in the charger to charge the Jackery, or your solar panel charge. It's got a power button. On the side it's got a light, so it's like a little camp light. I don't think it's very bright, but it works. If I plug in my refrigerator, it's a Dometic CF35, I think. And I just use it by the 12 volt. This thing would probably run for 3 or 4 days without dying. But let's say I run the Dometic all night, and then I pull this out the next day, plug it into the 100-watt solar panel that works with it, then I can essentially charge this back up to 100 while still running my fridge all day. If I charged my refrigerator and say a cell phone and maybe a couple lights, it would probably last maybe a day and a half. I've never really brought it all the way down to 0, but it would work pretty darn good. But I tried it with the Starlink, and it was dying very, very quickly, so I knew I needed something else. But before we get into what that something else is, let's talk about what I use in my tent in the evenings to help charge my personal stuff. Alright gang, so now we're going to talk about what I keep in the tent, because I like to keep my phone charged. Maybe I need to charge some of my lights that I use while I'm camping. During the day, things along those lines. This is what I have been using. This is the EcoFlow River 2. It's a smaller, I don't exactly know the amp hours or anything like that on it. It's pretty simple. You've got a 12 volt USB-A and USB-C, and then once again you have your AC power over here. So you can charge essentially anything. Not as many items as the 500, but you can still charge really fast. I actually won this at a Veterans Day meet that I did, and it was pretty awesome. Worked very, very well. In the cold weather, it didn't work quite as well. I'm not going to be rude. I'm not trying to pick on EcoFlow. It's a great product, but when it was cold out, it died a lot faster than I thought, and maybe that's to be expected. All right, but to counter that, I just got this. This is the Jackery 300. So it's just a step down from the 500, but this will stay in my tent now. This will charge my phone in the evenings. I can charge those lights during the day so that I have them charged up ready for night. If I need to charge my headlamp, if I need to charge my electric blanket while I'm using it in the evening, this thing's pretty legit. You have your 12 volt USB and USB-Cs. You can still do the AC power on this side. Comes with a little light over here. You can turn on the lights, and just in case you need a little night light, I guess. Got a cool little handle. This is the newer version of the Jackery. I just got it yesterday, and it has a 70 watt, I believe, solar panel that I could use. So I could still, during the day when I'm using the Jackery to charge some stuff, I can go plug, use this with the solar panel, charge it up completely, and it just makes your life easy. I don't have a solar panel for the EcoFlow. I do not know if the solar panel that came for this would work on the EcoFlow. I don't even know if I'm going to try. But that's where we're at for inside the tent, because, I've discussed what I like to keep charged and going, and you never know. Maybe there's some other things that I need to keep charging. Maybe there's other things that you want to keep charged. Maybe you use a CPAP in the evening, stuff like that. So having a power source in the tent or in your rooftop tent or however you're powering it may be worth it to you. All right, let me know in the comments below what you think about this. Now let's talk about what we're going to use to power the Starlink and some of the bigger items. Okay, friends, so now we're going to talk about how we're going to power the Starlink whenever I want to use it. And I might not run it very often. I may only run it for a couple hours here and there. If I'm in a large event, maybe I turn it on for several hours in the evening so me and my friends can have some Wi-Fi. You never know. All right, maybe on the weekends I want to watch a football game if I'm out camping, or I want to watch a Braves game while I'm sitting there at night. So it's always good to have power for stuff like that. But that's why I got a Starlink, so that I can have Wi-Fi. I got the KickAss Power Station. This is the AGM version, and they make a lithium version, and they make an AGM. Why did I go with AGM? It's simple, the price. This was a lot less expensive than the lithium version. Now, I know that there are some better options when it comes to lithium, or some better opportunities. For example, the AGM battery, you can really only use about half of it before you start tearing up the battery. All right? Lithium, you can drain that thing darn near all the way to zero and then recharge it, and it's not hurting the battery in any way. KickAss has made the perfect setup whichever way you choose to go. I bought these. They were not donated or given to me. I paid for these outright. They're awesome. So here, I decided to go with the KickAss batteries. This is the 12 volt, 120 amp hour deep cycle AGM battery. I'm excited to try this thing out. It's heavy. This thing probably weighs 30 or 40 pounds. It's a good, hefty size vehicle battery. All right. And over here, you have the actual power box. So the power box comes with everything you can think of. You've got 4 ports in the front. 2 of them have dual USB chargers, and 2 of them are 12 volt chargers, or the marine charger. So it's a lot safer and more waterproof and dustproof, things like that. Up top, you have the DC to DC 25 amp charger with the MPPT controller all installed. What does that mean? All right, so this can be used as a dual battery, which we'll talk about in a moment. It can also be used with solar. So when I decide to get a large permanently mounted solar panel on my vehicle, 170 to 200 watts, something like that, I can plug it straight into here, and I don't need any other inverters or chargers or anything. I can just plug it into the box and it's ready to go. It's got a little gauge on the front of the box to tell me how I'm doing. It's got all the directions and instructions up top. It's got the little information as far as what voltage is, how far, when I need to stop using it voltage wise, and all that type of stuff. This being an Australian product, they typically use Anderson connectors. So that's one of the first challenges that I'm going to have with that. So let's talk about my specific plan with this specific box, a kind of dual battery setup. So we have challenges with this. So here's the first challenge, and I probably didn't read enough into this before I actually bought it, but this uses Anderson connectors. Let's pull this in a little bit so you can kind of get a better sight of that. It's the plastic connectors. You know, they come in different colors. Red, black, and gray are pretty universal, but other than that, it helps keep you from, you know, plugging in something incorrectly, putting the negative on negative, positive on positive, things like that. It makes sure that everything's safe and done correctly. These things are very, very heavy duty. They're strong. Well, here's the first question I had is, I did not think about it before I bought it. The Starlink uses a normal AC connection, like you're plugging it into your wall outlet. This doesn't have one of those. So the next part of the dual battery setup that I haven't gotten yet is going to be the inverter. I ordered an inverter from Wagon. They're an awesome company. It should be here in a couple days, and when it gets here, we'll talk about that part. But it does not have Anderson connectors. So I went and I ordered some of their cables. When the cables are here, as a matter of fact, the cables are here, I will figure out how to install an Anderson connector onto that so that I can plug the inverter into the box, and then I can plug in my Starlink or whatever else I want to plug in into the inverter. It's a much safer way of doing things. It's a stronger way of doing things. I went with the Wagon Pro line 1000, I believe is what it's called. We'll double check it when it gets here. This will be hot wired straight into my house battery in the front of the vehicle, the starter battery. So essentially, anytime that I am driving around, I can plug this into wherever I put the connection on the inside of the vehicle, and I'm charging this. And then I can take it off and carry it around, similar to the Jackery or a solar generator. So think of this as a Jackery on steroids. It's going to be able to power my Starlink for hours and hours and hours and do an amazing job of it. I can still, anything that I put an Anderson connector on, so if I wanted to plug in my fridge or anything, I could still use this for it. It's one of the beautiful things about this box. And this controller up top is going to control everything. It's going to control how it's being charged, by what item. If I have the solar plugged in, I can charge to do solar power only, and so only the solar power is charging this. Or I can set the setting to where the vehicle is charging this. So you have plenty of options. I think this is going to be pretty awesome when we get it done. It's pretty straightforward box. We'll take it apart in a minute and kind of see how easy or difficult it is to put together. I don't think it's that difficult. Battery's kind of heavy. But this is a pretty heavy-duty box. It's heavy-duty plastic. You'll have bolts that actually keep it secured when the battery is in the box. Heavy-duty plastic. You got some really beefy handles to carry this thing around. It's already pre-wired, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But that's my idea. We'll see if it works. I don't know. So here we have the KickAss Power Station. It's got all the information up here up top. All right, it'll tell you everything you need to know. It's got all the settings. It'll tell you how far you can use your battery as far as the gauge goes. The controller's up here. It'll tell you what type of batteries you can use if you wanted to buy a different brand. Of course, I went with theirs, but you could buy different brands. And then if you decide to go lithium, the lithium box, which is a different color, will hold the lithium batteries and go from there. But as you can see, this thing is nice and heavy duty and put together very well. So let's see what is underneath here. All right. So when you open up the case, you've got the power and negative, and then a ground wire. All right. Underneath this case, it's all pre-wired. It's got inline fuses, everything you need. So even if you had an issue, you could take this off really quick, fix the fuse. On the back, you have these hidden Anderson connectors. We have a 3-prong and then several 2-prongs. All right. The 3-prong would be if you're plugging in something. This is the one that would go to the actual dual battery setup, because you've got power, you've got the negative or ground, and then you have one that controls the when you're turning on the vehicle and stuff like that. These other duals are just power and negative. These are hidden on the back, so if you wanted to have this thing put together, all right, and then you can put this against the wall in your vehicle or something like that. You don't have cables sticking out coming from the bottom. So these guys really did think of pretty much everything. All right, now let's look inside the box. I don't know how well you can see this, but you have these elastic bands with a lot of Velcro to help secure the battery in the bottom. You've got several of these little sticky foam pads that we put in the bottom, and it helps keeps the battery from sliding around. And then you have, of course, the hardware, because we're going to use these bolts to secure the lid to the base to keep this thing nice and weatherproof and taken care of. All right. So let's put the battery in here. Let's wire it up. See what happens. Alright, so now we got the battery installed inside of the box. I used the strap, of course, to tighten down really well. The little nylon strap that went across, you have these little cutouts. So I tucked it off one side, tucked it in the back of the box, just the way it's kind of out of the way. Now we're going to try to figure out how to wire the lid onto the terminals of the battery. And let's see what happens. Hopefully I don't blow myself up. Okay, this is like the 10th take, but that's okay. You guys aren't looking at my face, so we're good. Now, we have our 3 leads up here. We got our power, our positive, we have our negative, and our ground. The battery is strapped nice and tight. You have a cutout on each side of this the elastic strap that goes over. I undid one side, tucked it in the back of the battery just to get it out of the way. Nice and secure, we're ready to go. So they even color-coded each side of the battery so you know where to plug in which end. And I've already screwed it up once on one of the previous takes, but if you can look on the edge here, it's got a little hook almost, and that will keep this flat. You're going to use the provided bolt, washer, and lock washer to screw this down. Alright, get it down nice and hand tight. There is no other metal to metal anywhere in here for me to mount the ground. So I'm going to put the ground underneath the negative. So I'll put the ground down. We have our negative. Alright. Once again, I have my bolt with the washer and lock washer. Let's not screw this up. So we'll slide that through there, this through here, and put it in. Let's pray that I don't blow anything up. This would not be the first time that I've screwed something electrical up while trying to be cool. You know I'm not cool. Alright, we got both those hand tight. I got a 13mm wrench. We're just going to go, we're going to tighten these down real quick. Ratchet, I'm sorry, it's not a wrench. I don't want to over tighten. So we're going to get nice and tight. Go over to the positive. Alright, got those nice and tight. We're going to lift up our lid and let's pray that this thing works when we plug it in. We're going to tuck in our cables. Alright, we're going to set the lid on top of the box and let's pray. Oh, look at that. You guys see lights? I saw lights. We got lights over here. We're going to press this to see how far our battery is. That's pretty cool. It's lit. 12.6, which basically means I'm at about 90% of the AGM battery. That's pretty darn cool. Alright, so what do we have to do next? we're going to... Okay, so to secure the lid, you've got 4 of these bolts with a lock nut, and they just have a good Allen head, and then you have an Allen wrench that it comes with, and we're going to tighten these down. So we'll stick all these in here. Hopefully I don't lose it. Oh, that's pretty easy. It should be pretty darn easy. Alright, let me go ahead and tighten these down, and then we'll play with some of the buttons real quick. So there you have it. It is all put together. We're done. We can flip it on. We have our buttons up there. It looks like it's going through all the different settings. Up here it looks like you can pick what type of battery it has. I got it set on AGM. It's got gel, AGM, wet, calcium, lithium. I'm assuming you could use all those in here. I don't really know. Down here you've got different settings. I'm not really sure what those are, but we'll figure them out. I know that there's a way that you can turn on solar only, to where if you have the solar panel plugged into the KickAss box, that it provides solar power charging this over the storage battery or the starter battery. So that's always a cool option to have, Over here you just press the red button. It's got the little light up gauge with some colors. That's pretty cool. And so right here we have 12.6. I don't know if you can see that or not. Alright, and then you go up here on top, and 12.7 is 100, 12.5 is 80, so we're going to assume 12.6 is 90% full. I think that's pretty cool. When you get done, turn it off, and that's it. This thing has got some pretty good handles to carry it, because this is probably 40, 50 pounds or so. But that's it, guys. That is the KickAss Power Station. Well, there you have it, guys and gals. This is the KickAss Power Station, or as they say it, KickAss, because they're Australian and they have better accents than us down here in Georgia. But whatever. This thing's pretty legit. Once I get the inverter, we'll talk about how we're going to plug the inverter and make an Anderson connector out of that, plug it into here so that I can power the Starlink. That'll be here sometime next week. We'll also be getting the cable and wiring set up to be able to wire this to the truck so that I can have this at any point charging off of the truck battery while the truck is running, so that the alternator is charging that battery. Pretty cool setup. The DC to DC charger will help ensure that even if this is being plugged in and charging, it will not kill the starter battery. So that's one of the cool things about having a controller. You can get these boxes without the controller, but you can't really control it as well. Hence a controller. This thing's pretty awesome. Still got the jackeries and everything up there. But thanks for showing up, guys. Thanks for watching. I know this has been a long video. Please let me know in the comments below how I did. Once again, I'm not very good at this. I really don't know what I'm doing 99% of the time. I just kind of make it up as I go. So be gentle when you make your comments, but, that's what we're working with. We got our kick-ass box. I'm excited. This thing is beautiful. Go watch their YouTube channel. They've got so many awesome videos, so many awesome products. I used their 12-volt heated blanket at a camping trip in the mountains a couple months ago, and it was down in the teens at night, and that thing inside of my sleeping bag kept me extremely warm. So KickAss is an awesome brand. Stay tuned here soon, because we might be doing a pretty kick-ass giveaway. But you're never going to know unless you follow me on Instagram at BeardedTacoma, and just be patient. Thanks, guys. Let me know how I did. Please like and subscribe.